Hello, I'm Keith Jackson. You know, an awful lot of college football history has been made right here. The granddaddy, the first and most famous of them all.
We're gonna play football. Yippee! That's Young scores.
Whoa, Nelly. If that clip brings back memories of New Year's days of past, you won't want to miss today's episode of Whistle Talk, where we delve deep into the world of sports officiating with the veteran Mike VanderVelde, whose illustrious career includes officiating as the head referee in the last two Rose Bowl games, XFL Championship, and a multitude of other bowl games. Today's show promises to be a riveting exploration of the often overlooked but crucial aspects of sports, inside the mind of a football official. That's coming up next on Whistle Talk.
Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Whistle Talk. Tonight, I have the honor and the privilege of talking with a very special referee, somebody in our profession. And actually, I forgot to mention this to him in our pre-production, but I got a little quote here about him. This is from a gentleman that many of us have probably heard of, Dean Blandino, talking about our guest tonight as being the best referees that I've been around are the ones that are in control of the game and that command the game, that have a presence. He has that, referring to Mike VanderVelde. Okay. Sometimes football can get a little bit out of whack and crazy things can happen, and he seems to be able to handle it really well. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our esteemed guest tonight, Mike VanderVelde, 21 years of officiating experience in Michigan, Colorado, Louisiana, and now on to bigger pastures in major college football and some professional leagues.
Hey.
And Mike's dog has joined us too.
Dogs here in the background. I mean, this is some good quality podcast. All right. Sorry about that.
Oh, all good. I got two dogs that probably be barking in the background myself. So
absolutely sorry. But yeah, just absolutely honored to be here. Mike, appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast, Whistle Talk, and just kind of share a little bit about, officiating in general and, just the amazing, we call it a hobby, right? At the end of the day, it's really just the passion of giving back and being out there on the field, to whether we're managing a football game, a basketball game, a baseball game, volleyball, whatever it may be. It's just something that I really enjoy doing and enjoy spending time talking about it. So really appreciate the opportunity being here, and hopefully we can talk a little bit about officiating in general and draw some interest from people around the country, and hopefully at the end of the day, we can keep building, more people into this hobby and really just spend some time talking about it. So
awesome stuff. Once again, I truly appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule. For those that don't know, Mike is also doing the UFL right now, which we'll touch on a little bit later. So he's in mid-season of spring football right now. So he's taking his time out to join us tonight. So Mike and I, this is our first time actually chatting, but we've gone back and forth with email and through some messaging and stuff like that. I was really intrigued, Mike, when you gave me a little bit of a background history, talking about your father was an official also?
Yep, that's correct. For over 50 years in the Grand Rapids, Michigan area. He called some small college football and basketball, along with, high school officiating, football, basketball, and all of that kind of good stuff. So yeah, man, it started along those lines, back when I was a little kid, and, I couldn't wait to follow Dad out on Friday nights and just kind of follow him to games. I would stand on the sidelines, just enjoy the atmosphere, enjoyed the teams. He allowed me to be a little ball person, ball boy, running the ball out into the field. I didn't have to hand it to the line of scrimmage official. I was the one that could run right out to the middle and spot it for the umpire. And, just really, it was fun to spend those Friday nights, man. It was really a special opportunity for me. Dad loved doing it. He was very passionate about it. And, just to be out there after the games, having a pizza and, talking about the war stories was something that I really enjoyed. And, as soon as I had an opportunity to actually start officiating, I decided to jump in and do that. So.
Now, I was doing a little research on you, Mike, and if I read this correctly, you and your father got to work a state championship game together. Is that correct?
It wasn't together. We worked the same season. I was in
Okay.
Louisiana, and he was actually working it. I think it was a week just before my state championship. So we both worked in the same season, 2013, I believe it was. He worked it in Michigan, and I worked it in Louisiana.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. That's great stuff. So now
we
you're saying that down in Louisiana, you started off in Michigan. You're now in Louisiana. You had a stop in Colorado too, if I'm right.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I started in Michigan. Was able to join Dad's crew as a back judge to start off with for the first 3 or 4 years, and then took a teaching job out in Colorado and didn't stop. Really started started out there as soon as I could in Fort Collins area, and just officiated those 6 years I was in Louisiana, in Colorado, which was fantastic. And then when we moved to Louisiana, got started down here in the Greater New Orleans and Hammond Football Officials Association, um, and have been an active member since. So just love being around those guys and being around those groups and all of those different things.
Now, are you still currently involved with the high school in Louisiana?
I am. We try to participate in the mechanics committee. Making sure we're staying up to date on mechanics things. We're fortunate to work 5, 6, and 7 mechanics. So get an opportunity to kind of talk about the certain changes that we need to do. Both with the rules, but also just positioning and what we need to do to stay on top of being able to effectively officiate those games. And then just the LHSAA has adopted, the replay format in the state championships. And so I've been a part of that committee as well, just looking at, certain things. What can we review? What should we review? Is it too much? Is it too little? Just those different things that can help, with a game, especially of the high magnitude that those are.
Mm-hmm.
So, just as much as we can possibly give back there, really appreciate Lee Sanders and all the work that he does through the officiating world, just trying to get, exposure out there as well. And they're coming up with some good ideas. How do we hold classes and all of those different things for officials and that type of thing. So as much as we can do, man.
That's fantastic to hear that you're still involved at the lower level of high school with how high of a level you are now working at. So that's great stuff. And I'm sure that the guys in Louisiana truly appreciate your help and hearing the voice and stuff like that. Now, is Louisiana predominantly, you said it's predominantly 5, 6, and 7 man. Which way, most regular season games, are they 6-man or 5-man games?
So it depends on the area.
Okay.
It depends on, which part of the state. New Orleans is predominantly 7-person mechanics. So you're going to see most Friday nights, 7-person crews are going out and getting some work. Playoffs, they've adopted that 7-person mechanics. Now, when we get into a shortage, you're going to see more 5. In fact, we're kind of looking towards, how do you adjust games? We've had in the Hammond Association, they had to adjust games from Thursday, Friday to, Saturday. We just can't house as many games on those Friday night games to fully cover them. And, to give the best product that we can on the field, having a 7-person crew is your better coverage. And,
Absolutely.
Our coaches are really wanting that. And, we're trying to make that happen as much as we possibly can, because with 5, you're going to miss a few things. And, with the spread offenses, they're not making it any easier on
No.
the officials in general when you got to cover 5 wide and all of this kind of stuff. So, fortunately, we have been able to work more 7 than any of the others.
Oh, that's fantastic. So up here in New Jersey, we're predominantly 6-man crew, and we've adopted the 7-man crew for basically our state semifinal, and now we do have a true state group final, which has been recent in past couple of years. But we're predominantly the 6-man crew, and
Gotcha.
we enjoy it, we like it, but we're still finding that middle of the field still has that hole in it, unfortunately. So there's times the tight ends are able to sneak through or get grabbed that they shouldn't be getting grabbed and things like that. So it's never going to be perfect. And the 5-man crews, you're still, like you're saying, you got those quads on one side, trips on one side, whatever it may be, the spread and where your keys are. So having those extra set of eyes definitely helps out. With your 7-man mechanics, where is your umpire? Are you guys still the traditional on the defensive side of the ball?
Yep. Still traditional there for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my position. That's my key position. Is I'm an umpire by nature, but I was a side wing for a long time, a short wing for a long time, and I am a white hat too, filling in here and there. But I'm an
It's
old
awesome.
offensive lineman, so I'm at home in the middle of the field. So
Hey, more power to you. That's the one position, traditional umpire that I'm a little scared of working. That's for sure.
yeah,
That's for
I've
sure.
had a couple of faux pas of setting some picks on the defense on the linebackers on accident, but it happens. It's nature of the
It
game.
happens. Absolutely.
So now you were involved in high school for a number of years, and now you've moved up to the college ranks. You're not working any more high school games anymore. Am I correct in thinking that?
I have no. I mean, I worked the replay state championship this
Okay.
past year. Other than that, no, not on the field. Just with travel and leaving out on Fridays for games in the Big 12. Just kind of take me off the field from that perspective. So
hmm So for our listeners out there who are completely new to this, how does one rise through the ranks? How do you go from and in New Jersey we have a lot. We start off basically at the youth level, going from the youth level, high school level, to moving up to the different college ranks.
yeah, I mean that's a great question. Everybody has their own journey, right? And it really to me it boils down to a couple things. The first thing is just the professionalism that you give on the field, right? It doesn't matter if you're working a fourth or fifth grade game all the way up to a 78ers game to a freshman varsity, whatever. I mean, if you're out there and you're giving a professional effort, um, that's going to put you in a class above a lot of people in general. And
hmm
so, going out there with a mindset that you want to do the best that you can be at that position, at that night, at that game, and have that mindset, it's going to elevate you there alone. I mean, I think supervisors and assigners and everybody along the lines that assign those games are looking for people that they can trust and respect that they're going to manage a game from that perspective. Being a professional is a huge piece of that. I think the second thing is communication, right? I mean, how do we effectively communicate with our crew? How do we effectively communicate with our coaches? You show up at a game site, coaches are already sizing you up, who you are, who you've been, where are you coming from? You're the new person. So you've got to really establish some of that credibility. And then from that point forward, you're doing your best at each level. And I think to break into the college level, you start getting that exposure with your high school officials, your top officials that are getting state playoff games all the time. And and then those guys are natural that are kind of progressing into the college level. And so, from that point, they may mentor you and talk to you a little bit about next steps. And that could be camps, that could be attending your local college scrimmages, a Division III, a Division II spring, fall scrimmage, being out there on a Saturday morning, not making any money, but traveling and just learning the game, and hearing it from a higher level. And that's really where my journey started. I had a great mentor, Thaddeus Azor, out of New Orleans. He brought me in, put me under his wing, and took me to SWAC clinics and SWAC camps and practices at Southern. And I just made myself available and attended those. And then, you go to camps and you perform there, and you get some exposure there, and then hopefully at some point the next supervisor is excited about hiring you and bringing you in. And that's really where it started for me in kind of the 2013 season. And, attended a bunch of camps there, and was fortunate enough to be hired after that.
Now you said you started off in the SWAC conference. Can you expand on that for our people, our northern people,
Yeah.
about what the SWAC conference is?
Yeah. So, it's an FCS conference down here in the South. It's HBCU conference, one of the most amazing conferences in the country when it comes to fans and, bands and the experience that it is on the football field. I mean, there's really nothing like that. The bands that play for the entire halftime and the fans that are getting into it. I mean, 40,000 fans on a Saturday is pretty much what happens every weekend there. Along with that, down here we have the Southland Conference as well, which is another FCS conference that I was lucky enough to begin my journey there with them in the college ranks. And so, again, just great football, great passion down here from the FCS. We're a little limited here in the South, in Louisiana particularly. We don't have many Division III conferences or Division II
hmm
conferences. We had the Gulf South and I think the SAA is the other conference that some of our local officials will climb through the ranks that way. But it's just, that was very limited. And there's a lot of travel with that too. You're looking at 4-5 hour drives on a, Friday or Saturday just to get to your game site. So, but that's kind of the order. And then the Southland, conference for us, was a feeder for the Mountain West, and then the Mountain West, feeds into the Big 12 at the time. So, that's kind of been the consortium, or the group that, we connected with.
So now you're a crew chief in the Big 12 right now.
Yep.
When you broke into the Big 12, were you a white hat right away? Were you a head referee right away? And when did you transition from a position to the referee position?
Yeah, Mike, again, I'm against the norm on a lot of these things. For me, I was a referee and have always, pretty much been a referee.
Okay.
So I started, at high school, I worked the line of scrimmage and back judge. Those were my two, strong positions to start with.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kevin Boytman, the supervisor, and Paul LaRosa down here in New Orleans assigned me to work some referee games. And so I just kind of fell in love with the position. So then that's when I started to go to camp as a referee. And I got brought into the Southland as a back judge to start with. I worked 4 games my first season, and then 1 as a communicator. And then the next season I went to a camp again, and they said, you're done working back judge. We want you here as a referee. And so from that point forward, it was all referee, just focused along those lines, crew chief, leadership. And that from that day forward, it's been referee assignments after referee assignments. So
that's good stuff. I got to say, I've been seeing a theme with the different people that I talk to, from even in my association, just all around the place. A lot of the referees are coming from those deep wing guys, or that deep back judge position. So it seems like there's a common trend there. Do you feel like it's almost like the catcher's position in baseball, where you're able to see the whole game and even learn as the game is going on and see it a little bit differently?
Yeah, I think so. As a back judge, it's very similar. Some of the mechanics are very similar to the referee mechanics as you're looking on the periphery. Now, obviously got to back up, and you got a few things where you got to move with purpose and being in the right position, but you're still looking at kind of run plays from that perspective, from an inside out look, those types of things, but also just the leadership piece. There's got to be a captain in the backfield as well that can, make sure they're holding everybody accountable and doing the things that they need to be doing, from a deep perspective. And I think that's kind of the natural position for a deep wing or even a back judge primarily there.
Oh, all right. Good stuff. Yeah. Like I said, I've been seeing a lot of that old school mentality of being able to see it. And a lot of guys that I work with now that are head referees, that's where they were back there deep, and they loved the 5-man game at the time. Did a lot of running, kept them mobile. So
That's right. Fastest person out there, right?
Oh yeah. You're covering everything. You're covering deep, you're covering the sidelines, you're getting back and forth. So, and that's actually where my first couple games were, but I'm not going to lie, I wasn't too comfortable back there. I was never really a center fielder. I'm more of a first baseman. So I don't mind the running. I've done a couple triathlons and marathons and stuff like that. So the running doesn't bother me, but it was a different perspective. And I was a coach, so my comfort level was more on the sideline and the line of scrimmage. So that was where I was coming from. So my background knowledge there.
Yeah.
So, with the different conferences you were in, do you see like a big difference between the different conferences? Are there like nuances that you're seeing? I mean, you talked about the SWAC, and man, I wish I could get in to see some of those drum lines and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's on a whole different level. But are you seeing a big difference in even just the officiating or the coaching at the different levels there?
I think there's been a real conscious effort of just, streamlining mechanics so that everybody's, doing the same things, right? I mean, I think that's the ultimate goal. Everybody is speaking the same language. Different supervisors may have different tendencies and different nuances within their conferences, but from what I'm seeing, we're pretty much one college football organization across the country. I know with even the reshuffling of the conferences and the Power Fives and things of that nature. I mean, there's been, officials from different conferences that are being hired in the ACC, the Big 12, Big 10, all across the country. And so, it seems like it's a very similar and a seamless transition for them. I mean, we're speaking the same language and that type of thing. And I, being fortunate to come through the CFO West with our conferences, we were expected from the Southland to the Big 12 to have the same mechanics. And so I think that is pretty strong all the way through, all the college ranks. And even for us, we're working that down into the high school level too. And so some of the philosophies that, we're sharing on Friday nights with our coaches and with our officials here in New Orleans and Louisiana are very similar to what we're doing on Saturdays. And juggling that, I know the games are a little bit different, but you just want to make sure we're giving the best product out there.
Absolutely. One thing I tell all of our younger guys too is really dive into knowing the rules. Absolutely, you got to know that rule book, but know the mechanics, because the mechanics are going to put you in the right spot where you're going to be able to see it clearly, and you're going to be able to give that coach the answer that they may or may not be looking for, but you're able to be in the right spot. And so that's something that, like I said, we're traditionally a 6-man mechanic team state, but we still do have a couple 5-man mechanics, so it does vary a little bit. And I'm not going to lie, I got the privilege this past season to work a state championship game, and it was my first experience with a 7-man. And so I'm not going to lie, I felt a little comfortable having that guy directly back behind me and having my back too. But it definitely it changed up a little things here and there. We had to talk our way through some things, but the mechanics aspect of it, in my opinion, are one of the most important things that, especially for the younger officials, really dive into those mechanics manuals and know where you're supposed to be and what your keys are.
Absolutely. Well said. And congratulations, Mike, on that state championship. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm lucky enough. I work with a really great crew right now. We've blended well together, so we've had some really big games and some good games. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So now I'm talking about. I'm kind of tooting my own horn here about my state championship game. Would you like to let our listeners know about that hat, and we'll touch a little bit more about it? But you got a nice hat there.
Yeah, just like you were saying. I mean, it's about your crew, right? It's about the people around you, and that's really where, the past 2 seasons for me personally, I've been surrounded by just amazing officials, both from the replay booth to the guys on the field that I have. And, just working together for one goal and one purpose. And, I think that's the best part of, what we do. And fortunately, the last 2 years, I was assigned to the Rose Bowl game. We had Penn State and Utah 2 years ago, and this past season had Michigan and Alabama. So, just unbelievable experience, man. I mean, it's so humbling. Never would have thought, from day one when you start officiating those local games with the 5th and 6th graders to, the Friday night lights and that type of thing. It was pretty amazing. And then, stepping foot in the Rose Bowl for both of those games. I mean, 100,000 fans and just the pageantry around the game is incredible. Never would have thought, way back when that would be an experience. I mean, that was something that we would watch, my brother and I and family would watch on January 1st, back home, and that was the game that we circled. And it was amazing to be, the white hat in that game, so to speak. And so just so blessed, man, just so blessed and humbled and honored to have had that opportunity. And just so thankful for my crew and all the guys that I worked with during both of those games.
I mean, and we're going to come back to the Rose Bowl a little bit more. I want to I definitely want to dive into that, just the pageantry and Whoa Nelly talking Keith Jackson and the granddaddy of them all. But so you've been involved in the college level. Have you worked other bowl games?
Yeah, I've had the Military Bowl. I've worked the Bahamas Bowl. I was an alternate.
Got to be a tough one. The Bahamas.
Oh man, the Bahamas Bowl. that was my first ever bowl assignment. Took the family to the Bahamas for a couple of days. I mean, that was pretty special. That was a good experience for sure. I mean, it was a great vacation, and there was a little football sprinkled in there for sure.
Absolutely.
The Military Bowl was fantastic. We had, spending some time in Washington, D.C. and just hearing the history of that was pretty sweet. And then I was an alternate for the Outback Bowl and the Sugar Bowl previous to the 2 Rose Bowl assignments. And so, the Sugar Bowl was a CFP. That was during COVID. Was not quite the experience. I think there was like 3,000 fans. I think there was the limit during that season, which was pretty interesting. And then the Outback Bowl was awesome. I mean, there's, just to go to different areas, and spending the couple days there to see the committees and the teams and everybody just, spending the time to celebrate and to honor these teams being there and all of those things. It's really cool. It's hard to hear when media get into hey, do we need bowl games and do we need those types of things? But for the local people there, I mean, they really put on great shows. And they take care of those teams. And there's a lot of great things that go on with that. So that's why I'm a huge proponent for the bowl style, regardless of the CFP and some of those other things too. I think we need to continue to honor that as well.
Yeah, that's great stuff. That really is. So with that, excuse me, we can take a short little pause here, and when we get back, we're gonna dive a little bit more into that Rose Bowl stuff, the last 2 years, and again, what an awesome honor that's got to be working two Rose Bowls. So we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna dive into that Rose Bowl success. So just hang tight, everybody, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Whistle Talk fans, are you enjoying what you're listening to? Be sure to hit the like button so that you can join us every week as we break down the nuances of officiating that often go unnoticed. We want to hear from you, the passionate fans who make our game so special. Like what you hear? Hit the like button and let us know. Have a burning question or a hot take? Drop us a comment below to join the conversation.
All right, and we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back once again with Mike VanderVelde. And I want to start this second half of the segment off. It's just a little backdrop here.
Like most of Reichert's kicks, pounded deep into the end zone. JJ on the move, scanning, and fires into traffic on the sideline, and it's intercepted. Caleb Downs.
After review, the defender was out of bounds when he possessed the ball. It's an incomplete pass. It'll be second down.
And there he is, ladies and gentlemen. There he is.
Yep. Unbelievable there.
So
tell you what, bringing back those memories. It's you think that opening kickoff, you got a touchback, everything's nice and neat. You're going to put it at the 25. You're making it ready for play, and then the very first play from scrimmage, we've got to go to replay.
Yep.
You never know.
So for those that don't know, that was the Michigan-Alabama game. For the people that are just listening, that was this year's Rose Bowl. And not only was it the Rose Bowl, but it was also the college playoff semifinal too. So that was your number 1 team versus your number 4 team in the country at that time.
Yep.
I mean, that's incredible stuff. And just the beginning of that clip, hearing the crowd in the background, seeing the sun, just and like, describe that atmosphere if you can. Like, what is that like walking into that stadium?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, goosebumps, right? I'm sitting here thinking and watching and hearing you describe it, and that's exactly what I'm having, right? The same feeling of just excitement and the goosebumps and all of those different feelings that come on that are, just joyful, right? It's so exciting. You talk about just the granddaddy of them all, and it truly is. John Henderson and Kevin Nash and those guys over there with the committee just do an unbelievable job, putting on the production of the game. And, you've got, from Keith Jackson to, Kirk Herbstreit and those guys. I mean, they've been in that game. They continue to go back to that game. And they will always be at that game, right? I mean, they're always there, and it's unbelievable whether they're alive or with Keith Jackson not with us anymore. I mean, that spirit is still there. And, watching the sunset over the San Gabriels, and you watch, as that game progresses from 2:00 in the afternoon to 5:00 at night, and on a picture clear blue day, no rain, and then the B-2 bomber flying over top. I mean, come on, it's unbelievable and just crazy to even think that I was able to step foot on that field during that game. So.
To get picked to work that game, was that your crew? How does the college work? Do you stay together as a crew and get graded together?
So throughout the season, we do get evaluated both individually and as a crew. On that crew alone, I had 3 other officials that were on my regular season crew.
Okay.
The other group were guys that I had worked with in the past as well. So I knew them very well. And then from the previous game, the previous year, I think there were 6 out of 8 on-field officials that were making the run back. So
Okay.
6 of us, I think, were back-to-back together. So we've had a lot of familiarity with that. And, there's a lot of good crew camaraderie that way.
So with that being said, and I know using the NFL and the Super Bowl, for example, that they're grading individually and picking and choosing the best guys for their particular positions. So you already have a good core with these group.
Yep.
Even though you're not working with these guys full time, like what is your preparation like? What did like? Can you describe what your week leading up to it was like, preparation wise?
Yeah, we got the assignment after the championship games for the conferences, and so that following Tuesday, we kind of got things rolling from that perspective, and you knew which 2 teams you had. So at the end of the day, we started to just go through basic scouting. Going through Alabama's season, looking at their video, looking at their tendencies, looking at all of those different things, and then looking at Michigan. And so, for me, I assigned 2 of the officials on the crew. Each team, right? And they were supposed to pull some video, pull clips, pull highlights, pull different things that we would see in the Rose Bowl, just so that we would have, a game and a half of those teams under our belt leading into that, just so that there wouldn't be, crazy things that we hadn't seen, right? Mm-hmm. So we wanted to be very prepared with just some of the tendencies that both teams did. And then after that, it was really just connecting with the officials, seeing how they were doing. What was their Christmas season going to look like? How are they doing with their families? Connecting, that way. I think that's really important, just so that we're all on the same page. And then organizing. I think we had a party of 46 that joined us at the Rose Bowl, Ooh. And that included, families and kids and grandparents and friends from the area, that type of thing too. So. Spent a lot of time preparing for that as well, which are some of those challenges that you face. And, with it being a CFP, we tried to block out all of that noise and just focus in on the game. But, leading up, it was video review and then, having a good solid pregame, the day or 2 in advance of the game where, we got on the same page with, how we were going to mechanically work certain plays and, where we were going to, build that threshold and, where our eyes needed to be and, just stuff like that we spent some time on.
Now, I was talking to a couple of the high school guys and some of the smaller college guys around here. When you get to the bigger games like that and you get the high profile nature of that game, what do you guys do literally like pre-game beforehand? Do you meet with the coaches? Are you in the locker room with the coaches? How does that stuff all work?
Yeah, the day of the game, umpire and myself will go and talk to head coach. We'll sit down and chat with him. Sometimes it's a 5-minute conversation. Sometimes it's 2 minutes. Sometimes it's 7. It just kind of depends on the day and some of the needs that they may have. And so we just go over the basic fundamentals. Some of how I'm going to communicate today. Penalty enforcement, the easiest and the obvious ones. I'm just going to take just for efficiency purposes, coach. If you want me not to do what you expect in that situation, just get it to the wing and let them know and we'll get it right. I mean, there's no reason not to. I mean, I don't care if it takes a few extra seconds to get it right for the coach, if that's what they decide. And so anything weird, something like that, we'll definitely get the coach's opinion. We talk a little bit about communication and certain things like that. But other than that, it's a really quick, informal say hello. They don't want us there anyway. They're focused on, getting themselves ready for the game. And so yes. It's just a quick touch in and a touch base and then we're out of there. So
it's kind of the same thing that we do in the high school, but we're typically just right in the middle of the field and going over to each coach and going through we got a list of different questions to ask them, make sure everything is good and things to keep an eye on, things that they may have seen on film, different things like that. So for the people that don't understand that, there's a lot of smaller logistical things that are going on behind the scenes, even before that first whistle even blows. So it's still the preparation, the film work, the discussion, and heck, the logistics of getting a party of 46 out to one spot on a New Year's Day. That's got to be tough.
Yep. Yeah. all those different things behind the scenes. It's not just the 185 plays that are played during the game. So, yep.
So you now piggybacked with the Rose Bowl game to you then had a professional championship game, correct?
We did, yeah. Last year, the remake of the XFL came back, and our crew was selected to work the championship game in San Antonio. We had Arlington, and I believe it was the DC Defenders. So that was a pretty cool experience as well.
Oh, I can imagine. And
Yeah.
now you've carried on with the XFL and the USFL merger. You're now working in the UFL.
Yep. We got that season started. I think they're going into week 3 this week. We got 10 crews, about 70 officials, all solid officials that are from across the country. It's been fun to network with them and get to know them here in the spring season. It's been pretty cool, interesting rules differences, between the college game. That's such a challenge, right? Understanding federation rules to NCAA rules to, professional rules in that regard. And, just trying to, study those, stay focused on, the ones that were in the moment, currently with the professional rules and trying to create those silos, of, hey, here's the X rule for the professional league, and this is where we're going to put that in that bucket, and try to, hopefully the brain will remember that. And if I do it frequently enough, we can keep those focused around. So
it's tough not to default back to the one that you've worked the most.
Yes.
Now, what would be the biggest challenge with those? What particular would it be? The offensive side, the defensive side, and kick game? Kick game's always the variable for everybody.
Yep.
It seems like.
Yeah, I think it's all of it. With the professional rules, sometimes the holdings on the defense are 5, not 10. Hands to the face, for the defense is 5. It's not, 15. So, just some of those differences in the yardages make a little bit of a different, and then, different enforcements. Professional league have this double width and double afters, and, they kind of throw these different terms out that I have not worked with very often, prior to the last 2 seasons. And so just trying to figure out what those mean and where do you place the ball and where are you enforcing it from, the importance of the bean bag and, on turnovers and that type of thing. So just some of those.
So the way that I've kind of been grasping with the UFL this year is it's almost like a experimental. It's not the right word, but some of the rules that the NFL may be looking into adapting, they're trying out in the UFL. Am I correct in thinking that?
Yeah, I think, there are some of those things that are experimental. I think, looking at data and looking at safety aspects of the game and trying to make the game a little bit safer for the players, I think has been taken into account. And then some of those interesting, NFL plays that happen in the fall that caused a little more discussion on Mondays and Tuesdays, right? That forward fumble into the end zone and through the end zone is a touchback in every league except for the UFL. And so, on that situation, that's going to be a forward fumble out of bounds for us. And it's going to go back to the spot of the fumble, and foul. The offense is still going to have possession. And so, those are some of those interesting pieces. I think it's more of a trial basis. I think last year in the XFL, we had that maybe once or twice, which was cool to see. And just, you see those differences. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? It's interesting to see the NFL adopting the XFL kickoff from last year. That's going to be an interesting mechanic that they're working through right now. They're trying to study, what's going to be the best coverage. We had 7 games last year, where we were able to work, 6 or 7 kickoffs per game and stuff like that. So there's some data out there. It's interesting, and it's just trying to figure out, ways to keep players from getting injured. And, the kickoff game has been one of those challenging pieces. So, it's just kind of cool to see it.
Now, are you guys working with the NFL with some of these rule changes and adaptations that they're doing?
Not directly. Not directly. I think, we've got some great position trainers that have association with the NFL. So we get some of those mechanic pieces. And I think, the owners of the league, they're in discussion with the owners of the NFL. I'm sure behind the scenes, that's not, that's something that I would assume is happening, because it's a spring league and they're, taking notes and, deciding what might be best for the league. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just, you try to, for the players, that's an opportunity for them to display their ability. Right. And so they want to get out there and show off and hopefully get an opportunity at some camp work this summer and getting themselves on a team. So I think that's kind of the design of what the league is doing and what they're trying to create, on a consistent basis so that it's year in and year out and they can feed players into the NFL from that perspective too.
Now, how about on the officiating standpoint? Are you seeing a lot of officials making the jump from the UFL, XFL, USFL to the NFL?
Yeah, I think last year, depending, I want to say maybe there were 10 hires, maybe a few more hires into the NFL from that perspective, and they came from the USFL and the XFL. I think we had 4 from the XFL, maybe 3, and then the rest were from the USFL. So, I think there is some of that because of the professional snaps that we're getting, and that we're doing that in the spring as well. And so, the NFL supervisors and the officiating department are able to scout us because there's not any other football going on, and they can pull the video and, really get a good idea of how well we're doing, and they can look into that and, make their decisions from that perspective.
Now, I'm going to ask a little bit of a personal question. Are you aspiring for that next level, or are you happy?
Yeah, Mike, that's a great question. My goal is the here and now, right? I mean, my next assignment, I get to go to San Antonio to work in April. So, I want to just do the best there, right? Like
Okay.
that's really where my heart is.
Yep.
That's one thing that officials in football in general, because that's my experience, we want a fast elevator to the top. And I think we look at those opportunities and we're like, well, why am I not doing X, Y, and Z, and why am I not here? And for me, I really want to guard against that. I want to enjoy the moments. I want to enjoy every opportunity. I want to still, picture that state championship that I had in 2013 and, know those 2 teams, that we worked, and then, take those pictures of the Rose Bowl, but also take the Bahamas and then also take the FCS championships and, the games at Lamar and the games at, wherever we go, throughout our career and not really, subscribe to that fast food society, if that makes sense. And so
No.
do I have aspirations? Yeah, I would love to at some point, but again, it's out of my control. I mean, I'm just going to do my best at my next assignment. And, if I can put myself in a position to make it a difficult decision for them, that would be perfect. That's my ultimate goal. So
I love that answer. That was absolutely fantastic, and I'm a personal believer in that same type of mindset. I'm going to do the best that I can today, and wherever my future takes me to, if I have an opportunity, that'd be great. If I don't, I'm still going to do the best that I can right here and now. So that's fantastic.
That's right.
So getting to close to wrapping this up.
Sure.
So I'm hoping that, again, one of my main goals with doing this podcast in general is to try to bring awareness to not only other officials, but to coaches and even to just the casual fans out there about what we do, what goes through our minds, different keys and different aspects like that. If you were working with a brand new crew at a high school level, what kind of tips, what kind of advice would you give them for the here and now? What kind of words of advice do you have?
Yeah, first and foremost is like you were talking about earlier with the mechanics, right? Being out there, being on the field, knowing the mechanics, is really important. Understanding the rules, knowing those basic things is really important. But at the end of the day, it's so much fun to officiate games, right? Like that to me is number one, right? Like if I did not have fun doing this, I would not do it, right? Like that's the biggest thing. And, it doesn't matter if a coach is upset. It doesn't matter if there are fans yelling at me. All of those different things are a part of the game. you with the more experience you have, you drown it out. You kind of get a different sense of that as it goes on. But it's about the fun, man. It's about being around the crew. It's about spending time, with the fraternity, so to speak.
Absolutely.
That's really what it's all about. And I wish that there would be more people, throughout the country, that would take this opportunity and join whatever officiating association that's in their area. Because that's really what you get. Once you invest in that and you spend time, you get to meet the greatest officials and the greatest people in the world. I mean, I can tell you that, for me, I still have great friends from Michigan that I officiate with, that I still contact and say hello as the season goes on. I still have great friends in Colorado that I talk to a lot. And then all of my officiating friends here in Louisiana. But then from the college perspective, it's all across the country, right? I mean, it's different people in different states, and you really just get to invest in them as a person. And that's really the best part of this. And that's what officiating has provided for me. So, that's what I would tell rookies, hang in there. I mean, it's going to be, just like in everything else, you start a job, you're going to be at the low part of the totem pole, and then you got to work your way up. And so if you have that perseverance and you're definitely dedicated to it, it can be very rewarding. Especially if you communicate effectively and you're very professional in what you're doing, you're going to elevate. And so that's really what it comes down to. And there's such a need, right? I mean, there is such a need across the country.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter the sport. That's really the ultimate thing, is trying to get more and more people involved in this. And, for the fans out there, right? I mean, they're critical, they're hypercritical. We've got videos everywhere. You've got instant replay on your cell phone. I mean, it's fantastic. We can embrace that technology, and say, yeah, you know what? I absolutely missed that call, and I'm going to miss a call again. And it's not because I'm intentionally trying to stick it to your team, because that's not the case at all. I am trying to fairly officiate this game to the best of my ability, and that's where every official's hearts are. And that's really what it comes down to. And so getting past that and enjoying it is really what it comes down to, and sticking to it, because that's what the stats show. After 3 years, you have such a huge decrease, and people are jumping out of this thing, and you're trying to keep them around. So that's kind of my message there, man. I think that's why I love this podcast, talking with you here, and just getting that exposure out there. I think there's an extreme value to that, and want to be a part of that push if we possibly can. So.
Well, once again, I truly appreciate you taking your time out of your schedule to join us here today. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Mike VanderVelde, Big 12 official right now, UFL referee, been to it all pretty much so far right now. Maybe some Sunday games here and there, possibly in the future, but he's living in the moment, and that's a fantastic way. And really do appreciate you coming on and joining us, Mike. Thank you once again.
Absolutely, Mike. Thanks for the time, for sure. And best of luck, and looking forward to connecting with everybody down the road too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good stuff.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Whistle Talk, where we unravel the fascinating world of football officiating. If you enjoyed today's discussion and want to stay in the loop with the latest insights, be sure to subscribe to Whistle Talk on your favorite podcast platform. Stay connected with us by following Whistle Talk on social media, where we share behind-the-scenes glimpses, updates, and engage with our incredible community of officiating enthusiasts. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search for the words Whistle Talk. Your support means the world to the show, and we'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future episodes. Drop us a line through our website or message me on social media. I'm always eager to connect with the fellow fans and continue the conversation. Until next time, keep blowing the whistle on the untold stories and nuances of football officiating. Thanks for being part of the Whistle Talk family. This is Mike D, the referee, saying so long for now.